important to draw wisdom from many different places. If we take it from only one place, it becomes rigid and stale. Understanding others, the other elements, and the other nations will help you become whole.
That's South Jersey. South Jersey, its own world, though.
South Jersey thinks that they're in Alabama. They dead ass.
100%.
South.
How'd you feel growing up down there, Joe? How
Right?
you feel about it in hindsight?
In hindsight, it's crazy because we definitely didn't realize it back then, but that area was so racist.
So racist.
Has to be one of the most racist areas in the state. I do a bunch of work related to like cannabis law now, and the numbers in Ocean and Monmouth County, like it's like in Ocean County, I think it's 8 times more likely for a black kid to get arrested for weed than a white person. I'm like, there's not even enough black people in Ocean County for that to be realistic.
Yeah.
It's true.
Like they're literally just stopping any black person they can find and trying to get them for something.
Yeah, it just varies by town in Jersey. It's funny. The vibe can switch so quickly in Jersey. It's like good and I like it. It's a pro and a con, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I remember. So I grew up in Bradley Beach, which is in Monmouth County, and it's a pretty white area. But moving down to Manchester, it was even.
That's like by Long Branch? Bradley Beach?
It's right by Long Branch, in between Asbury and like Belmar. And growing up there, it was super white, but going down to Manchester, you start seeing all the pickup trucks and Confederate flags.
Confederate flag.
And it's like, when I was young, I had no idea what any of that meant. But now looking back on it, it's like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, why are there people in New Jersey flying Confederate flags?
I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Like you literally live in the union. If this was back in the day, you would have been in the unions. Like
You know
I don't get it.
Yeah, like, but people just got like a false sense of whatever they think they believe in. You feel me?
Right. But like, even back then, I remember I asked the kid. I'm not gonna say the kid's name, but I asked the kid in class one time. It was like biology class freshman year. I said, "What do you like about the Confederate flag?" And this fool had the nerve to say to me, I'm not racist. I just like the colors. It's the same colors.
It's the same flag, bro.
Flag,
same color as almost half the other flags across in the world. You talk about you're not racist. You just like the colors.
He said he liked the design. The axe is tough. I don't know, man.
Yeah, some wild shit going on down there.
It's definitely passed down. Like that vibe is just down there in that area, And it's funny because as a kid, it's still like a great place to grow up. Yeah. It's an amazing place to grow up. It gave us a good childhood, but like as you get older, you start to recognize things. And I just went back like 2 weeks ago to drop a shirt off to my guy Jacobs. So I was driving in Pine Lake, and like the same just neighborhood, just driving that I rode my bike. I took like my bike route, so I was like riding my bike to his crib. And just driving through Pine Lake, and I seen so many just like still Trump flags and stuff, and
everywhere.
and Confederate, and I'm just like, yo, like, damn, this is really. You didn't notice it when you was young, but it's there for sure.
And it's crazy, especially in that area, because there's so many old white people.
Mm-hmm.
So like when we were young, we thought it was a real diverse area because the school is relatively diverse. There's a whole bunch of black and brown.
But they have a stronghold.
It's just like you look at the demographics, and it's like, how is it 95% white? And you realize it's 90% old white people. Yeah. But I mean, like there's a decent amount of diversity just because of the areas that are around Manchester.
Yeah,
so
like Lakehurst and the base, so you get a lot of the military
folk coming in.
Yeah.
And then you have people that are leaving Lakewood. The communities of color that have kind of got pushed out of Lakewood.
When's the last time you've been down there, Joe?
I was actually down there this weekend. My older brother got married this past weekend.
Oh, damn, congrats.
Appreciate it.
Oh, damn. Oh, Snabby's married.
So I was down there. That was the first time I've been down there in a minute. So I was driving around. I was just like, yo, this is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a cool area. I just wouldn't want my kids to grow up there.
Yeah. And it's just an old vibe because there's a lot of retired people down there. The retirement communities make it, you know what I'm saying? So it's catered to them. The area is definitely catered to them.
Right. It'd be tough to drive down there.
Yeah.
Real tough to drive.
Man, tell me about Monmouth, though. Now, before that, Rome, I got to tell you, Joe was like probably the best running back that came out of Manchester. Nice. Hands down, broke all the records.
Back in the day,
I grew up playing football, so I figured that's official.
Man, it's still crazy. Did they change the rule yet for hurdling? They used to give him a flag every time. He always hurdling somebody.
Damn,
So-
for real?
And so I don't even really know whose rule it was because it wasn't a New Jersey State rule.
Mm.
So like I think it was just a conference rule because growing up I saw a bunch of people do it. There was a kid named Bennett Jackson. He used to play at Raritan, and then he went to like Notre Dame and he played in the league for a few years. And when I was like a freshman, he was the best person in the shore. And I just remember watching him. He would always jump over people. I was like, yo, that is crazy.
Yeah.
So once I finally got a little bit of clout and I started touching the ball enough to be feeling myself enough to do that, I did it. They gave me a flag. The coach yelled at me like, "Don't do it again." Blah 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 blah. Did it again. I did it again. And
So like, were they taking yards away from the play, or was it like,
yeah, it's
you just getting,
it's a 15, I think it's a
It was
15
yard?
yard penalty.
Damn.
It's either a 10 or 15 yard penalty.
after
so,
you probably gained like 15?
right.
Yeah.
So the second time I did it, I actually scored, but they called it back. And the coach just ripped me apart. He was like, "You know that you're gonna get a penalty now for it, so you can't keep doing it."
Coach O'Donnell?
Nah, it was Coach Taylor.
Oh, it was Coach Taylor.
Yeah, so I respected that. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
cool. Like I was just trying to get it on my highlight.
On the
film.
highlight
so
tape.
you just gotta get
Yeah.
like one a season to throw it on the
Yeah,
highlight film.
fuck.
But I don't know if they changed that rule, and it doesn't even make sense because the rule is it's for your own safety. So they penalize me to protect me. So I was like, don't do that. If it was for the other person's safety, then maybe I could see that being the case. But if you're gonna say I'm trying to protect you, I'll take my chances and just let me jump over some.
Yeah, because you just limited what you can do on the field in between the lines. For sure,
I
man.
definitely did get popped a few times doing it though. Never really
Caught in
in
the air.
never really in a game, but like just a few times in practice
Practice.
where I was feeling myself too much. Like there was one time, Romello. You remember Romello?
Of course.
I was just talking shit in practice, and we were talking shit back and forth. And I think it was like some type of kick return drill. And I was like, yo, I'm about to jump over you, dead ass. I'm about to jump over you.
You trying to tell him, like, psych him out? Yeah.
So I told him, and it just the next drill, like it just lined up perfectly where he was running at me, and I was like, I know I shouldn't jump over him because he's gonna kill me. But I said I was gonna do it,
So you gotta
I'm
do
gonna
it now.
I jumped,
Yeah.
bro. He just flipped. I flipped like 3 times in the air, hit the ground, just stood up and walked back. I was hurting so bad, but I couldn't say nothing about it. I
Yeah, you
was
just have to
like,
get up and walk that off, yeah.
Gotta take that one.
It'd be like that. You gotta take a short sometimes. Sorry.
Yeah, 100%. You can't win them all.
Who's the one person that you faced in high school on the other team that you just remember the most? Like, damn, that man was a monster.
So 2 people come to mind. The first is Khalif from Central.
Central, yeah.
There was a kid named Khalif Hardy. He was like an All-American wrestler. Had like a scholarship offer to UNC to wrestle. He's like, I don't want to. He's like, I don't want to wrestle on state football.
Yeah.
But his whole family was like real good athletes. And me and him were the 2 best running backs in the county that our senior year. And we went up like 20-0 in the first half. I was balling. They came back, beat us like 21-20 or some shit like that. I was so sick. But he was legit. He was a good linebacker, but he was a really good running back. And then there was this kid from Lacey named Jordan Powell. He played D end and tight end, and he went on to play at New Hampshire. I think he was really good. He generally speaking, I honestly felt like every time I stepped on the field from my junior and senior year, I was the best player on the field. But those were the 2 guys that made me at least question it.
You're like, damn, all right, this
Like,
guy's nice.
they're on my level.
Were they
I had a
on?
question.
So was it just those 2 players, and were the teams like equally as good? Like,
Well, so
are they just like they just ate? You know what I mean?
Lacey was good. They were always good.
they
They
were
always had a bunch of big ass white boys. they were real
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Central they were basically just like us. Like we were never really that good. We were always a 500 team.
Okay.
And that was how most of the teams in our area were. So it was kind of just whoever's best players would go off on that game would probably have the best chance of winning.
Damn, take me to Monmouth then, man. Tell me about the Monmouth experience.
Monmouth was real cool. So I was originally born at Monmouth Medical, so it's like 3 blocks. From,
So it's like full
from
circle
Monmouth
for you.
University. So yeah, like
Nice.
it was real cool to be able to go back there and be like, okay, cool. I'm actually from this area, so
You
it was
putting on
nice.
for real.
Yeah, it was nice. Like the same people that were covering me in the press in high school were the same people that were covering us in college. So I was able to kind of have that relationship already, which was like a
Made
leg
it
up.
a lot easier, more
Right.
comfortable.
Right. And it was also like I was originally from that area, but it's far enough away from Manchester to where I didn't feel like I was still at home.
Gotcha.
And that was real important. I was like, I'm not trying to sit in like high school 2.0. I felt like once I was able to go to college, it really was I was separate from everything else, and I had a little bit of freedom for once, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I feel like the level of living in Jersey, it just jumps up from that area. Like once you go past Asbury, it just starts like I don't know.
Yeah. I mean that whole area is like, so I mean it's interesting because I mean even Asbury now like is being rapidly gentrified. Like that's one of the fastest gentrifying places in the state, if not the country.
Yeah, the bars are real nice down there. It's real nice.
But like,
God bless.
you have a decent amount of diversity on the outskirts in terms of Asbury, Long Branch, Neptune. But then everything in between that and all the little tiny towns on the shore are just like super white. And going to Monmouth, it was interesting because like, one, the parking situation is awful. But if you go through like the student lot, you see the nicest cars because all these kids come from like affluent backgrounds where they grew up on like Staten Island or some shit like that. Their parents make a bunch of money, so they're driving a Maserati to school.
Yeah,
it's like this shit don't make no sense.
It's just privileged.
Right.
Super
Shit don't
privileged.
make no sense. It's like the student lot was way better than the faculty lot. It's like there was like 50 G wagons in the student lot. So it was an interesting experience. I mean, like I feel like all of my schooling experiences have been in majority white places, but they've all felt different. Like Manchester was a majority white place, but I felt that it was real diverse because I feel like the black kids in the community hung out together. Like we was all real close. So like, I never really felt like we were a minority. Going to college was a little weird because you realize that all the minorities are the athletes.
All that, yeah.
So there really aren't too many people outside of the athletic community that you can relate to. So like I found that one of the things that really helped me the most was finding some kids that I could relate to that weren't in the athletic scene. So some of my best friends to this day are black kids that I met in college that didn't play sports.
Just more like on the academic side or just as a person?
Yeah, just as a person. Just like a few of my best friends, we all lived in the same dorm room. We were walking past each other in like the lobby, and somebody was playing some like Ja Rule or some shit. We started talking about that. And then you automatically friends off that. So
our world, especially with music.
Yeah, right. Especially with music, it's like a real easy way to communicate with people that you don't know.
Connects everybody.
Yeah, 100%.
It's crazy. It's crazy now. Like Joe was one of the first, always on Dat Piff, knew all the good music first. Put me on Kendrick. He was talking about Kendrick. I'm like, yo, who is Kendrick? You know, put me on. Music's crazy. These artists, we really watch them grow. It's insane. They really goats now. Kendrick, Cole, all those dudes.
I said we're gonna have to talk about that Cole album.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yo, I saw when you were like messing with your phone. I saw like the little Cole. You was listening to Cole.
I was listening to 100%. That's so. When new shit comes out, I'll be honest, I kind of avoid it for a little bit, especially when it's like my favorite artists because they take a decent amount of time to drop. So it's not like Cole not gonna drop every year. So it's gonna be 2, 3, 4 years.
It's a moment that you gotta listen to it the right way.
Right.
You gotta make it an event, kind of, for sure.
And also, if you're gonna make me wait 4 years, I might make you wait a week.
Yeah, good music is gonna be here
It's
regardless.
gonna
It's
be
gonna be able to like stand the test of time. So you have to like ingest it on your own pace.
And I feel like it makes it a lot easier to avoid other people's opinions influencing your own. So like if you hear it once and then you start talking to other people about it, the next time you listen to it, now other people's opinions are in your head already, and you listen to it with their opinions.
Yeah.
So like I try to I don't even want to talk about the album until I listen to it 10 times. Like I'm trying to just
digest it for real.
Keep going, especially somebody like Cole because I know he's gonna trim the fat off the album. He's gonna give us 10, 12 songs. When some of these other younger people give us 20, 25 songs, like I don't need all that. Definitely don't need all that. But yeah, it's nice now that we've kind of grown along with some of our favorite artists and we can kind of see where they're at now too.
Yeah.
And that they've not only grown, but they've also adapted to the new shit.
Yeah, because there's a whole new generation now. There's I feel like there's 2 new generations already.
No, for real.
Yeah, that is.
It's crazy.
100%. It's cool because like the people like Kendrick and Cole, those are the people that I've always felt most naturally inclinated towards. And I think it's because their influences are the same exact influences that I had growing up. So you can tell that Jay-Z and Kanye are the top influences when you're listening to Cole. And I'm like, that makes sense because that was my top influences growing up. So that's why I like his music. And then you get to the next generation, you can see the guys that were influenced by Cole, and they're picking up some of the things that he was influenced by. So you get a lot more like the sing-songy shit that you got from like that Cole took from like 50 and Ja and turned it into some new shit, and now the next generation's turning that into some new shit. So it's real cool to see. And I think Cole doing a good job because his team is all young people. So like,
and they're nice.
And they're
you got
all
a squad.
Nice. He's with them. I think that they do a better job than TDE does because TDE is all established folks for the most part.
Yeah, they in-house. They're keeping everything in-house. Yeah.
Right. And Cole's like, all right, cool. Every time I find somebody young that I rock with, I'm just gonna bring them and put them on the team and let them just keep building. So you get a bunch of the Dreamville squad has to be like Cole is the main influence.
Yeah.
Because they sound like they was influenced by Cole, whether or not he was gonna sign them or not.
For sure. And it's crazy because I think he is gonna be the rapper that actually retires and doesn't stretch it out. I think the next album really might be the last, man. I'm kind of sad, bro.
I can't buy it.
I'm kind of sad.
Nah, I think Cole he's an age gracefully type of artist, so I don't see his music like I don't see him feeling the need like I sound too young. You know what I'm saying? Because he keeps it mature for his age. He never gets out of pocket with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like I think that generation, so the Kendricks and the Coles, they are going to be the first generation that realizes rap is an old man's game. Like it really is. Like, okay, mate, you're not going to make the most money, you're not going to be the most popular, but no, you're not going to be the best unless you're over 30 years old. It's just not going to happen. And you're probably not really the best unless you're over 40 years old. Like I'd probably say that if we had to lock everybody in a room and figure out who the best rapper is, it's probably like Black Thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if we're talking about the art of being able to rap.
Just
like
rock. Nah,
We were
it's
just
Black
listening to the Black Thought and Benny joint on what is it?
The first
Plugs I'm at.
Plugs
yeah,
I'm at.
Plugs
too.
I'm at one.
One.
that whole
And
tape.
Benny's verse was solid, but Black Thought he did something special on it.
Yeah,
so I was just like, wow.
Went on for like 3 minutes.
Right. I mean, just getting the
he's-
Black Thought verse on your shit.
Yeah.
It's like, how you even go about doing that? It's
You
like
have-
getting a J Electronica verse.
Yeah, you have to understand that, like, all right, just put your verse first and just leave him the rest of the track and expect him to maybe drop 60 ball. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like,
Don't take nothing personal.
don't take nothing personal. He not coming at you. He just trying to kill it. It's for the sport.
Because that's what Dave said. Dave was like, damn, Benny shouldn't even have put that verse on. And I was like, nah, I was like, that's a compliment because he felt like he had to come that crazy because he felt like he had to match whatever he was going to come with. Benny was going to come with. So I was like, damn. Like, he just took it there. Like,
Look, I feel like you know what you're in for. You getting a Black Thought verse. It's like you're not getting the Black Thought verse thinking you're gonna be him.
yeah.
There's no point in doing that.
I always think about I saw an interview with Fat Joe. I forgot where I saw it on, but he was saying when they made Big Pun's album, he was like a lot of rappers didn't want to get on like Big Pun's like album. They were like, yo, he was killing shit. And he's like he just like gave fucking Black Thought a lot of credit for just even getting on the song and even how they wrote the song, like going back and forth. He was like a lot of people didn't want to do that. And he stepped up to the plate.
That's just like it's so interesting to think like if somebody who's that good is going to even give you like, hey, you could step on my shit and have a verse. You better step up and take the shot, right? Like, because you're anticipated to lose. Everybody expects you're going to lose. So no matter what, if you go out there and somebody likes what you did, you just gained so many new fans because you didn't have access to Big Pun's fans on your own shit, right?
Facts,
you got to go step into that arena sometimes.
Hell yeah.
But that's just back then when it was like really like a sport. And some people really didn't want to get slaughtered like that. Now it's a lot more friendly. You know, people can be like, "Yeah, you spaz on
It's
my
more
track."
like it's music. It's music.
It's music.
But before it was music, but it was still a competition.
Yeah.
Like, but
Especially in New York, with the, like that New York's like sound in the '90s and early 2000s. You know,
It's interesting, like, I guess because, like, the same exact thing is happening in sports, right? Like, there's the same exact conversation about, like, things used to be so much tougher in sports, now everybody's friends, and they want to get along, same things happen in the music. Like, culturally, I guess maybe we've just made it to a point where, like, back in the day, the black and brown space to be successful was super small. You had to compete with each other.
yeah.
Like, it had to be me versus you, one of us people of color might be successful.
And there weren't as many platforms for everybody.
Right.
So
And now it's like so many different ways that you can step up and find your success.
Yeah, do
and
your
we
own
don't
thing.
need to necessarily all fight for this one little piece of pie. Like it's not a zero-sum game. We could all be successful. And like, yeah, I guess there's some argument that it might take away from some of the art of it here and there. And I respect that argument, but I think at the end of the day, we're more likely to get good music from people collaborating than people being mad at each other.
Yeah.
On the sports front, I don't know. You might be able to argue that one either way, but I think on the music front, it's probably a good thing.
Nah, yeah, it's great that, you know, two artists like Drake and Future can get on and give you a crazy little party tape, because before maybe it was too much of a sport to do that. Now it's, you know, everybody's hopping on. Jay and Jay Elect. Yeah. Like that, I was even surprised by that. I'm like, he's on every track.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
That was my album of the year that year. I'm not going to lie.
It was interesting that they didn't market it as a like a duo.
As a duo, because I think Jay was just helping Jay Elect put it out a project.
He
was like, "What? Do you
really just wanted him to put something out?"
Yeah, he's like, "Do you need me to get on every track? Like, let's do it. I'll do that if they'll put it out." And I think that's really what happened, bro.
Yeah, look, that's probably the best bet.
Yeah,
and that's shout out to Jay for that, because otherwise we ain't getting no Jay Electronic.
That's a fact. We needed that.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I'm not even expecting another Jay Elect. Like, I'll be surprised and be super happy, but I ain't pressuring him because he probably somewhere in London chilling.
I just appreciate the little J Leg Lucy's, like the low key ones that I still know about that nobody else does.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like, I feel like if you're that type of artist, right? You don't necessarily need to fit the mold of I need to put out mainstream albums. I need to do all this marketing.
I need to have such a big catalog.
Fans just want music every once in a while. They just want something new to listen to every once in a while. Because there's plenty of other artists. Even the most diehard Jay Electronica fan, there's a million other things for them to listen to. So give me a song every 6 months, and that's way better than the pace you've been doing for the last decade.
Word.
We'll take it.
Especially Jay Elect. Just give me a scripture here and there. That's all I'm trying to do, man. I'm just trying to get more in tune with the Infinite.
Because people like that, like, you know that's their hobby. This is what you love to do.
It's not like you not making music. You doing something. You in the studio doing something, bro. It's
there. Like I always have this feeling that, like, because I make music on the side and I'm my biggest critic. So I know that feeling of, like, these artists that we really love have to have 1,000 songs in the vault that nobody will ever hear.
Yeah. And
half of them we would probably all like.
Maybe even love, probably.
Right.
Like, you saw the Timberland and Swiss verses. He played he played Bath Salts, but it was a J. Cole verse. Yeah. Dave had sent it to me.
Yeah. And it was
it's just like that might never get heard ever.
Yeah.
Like, you just throw it away.
He just threw that shit out there just for the snips, like, and that's it.
And not a quick little 16, like, he went off for a little second too. So
but man, look, I think that the streaming shit might be bad for, like, the top artist or, like, the top mid-level artist pockets, because they don't make as much money off streams and shit. Mm-hmm. But just in terms of everybody being able to get on, like, the streaming shit's about as good as it could possibly be.
Yeah.
Because all you need to do is put a song out, and people can access it. Everybody can look it up.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's in charge of what they listen to now, so they can't just say, "Oh, it wasn't on the radio. I didn't hear it." It's like, just type it into the search bar on Apple Music or Spotify and click play.
Yeah.
It's as easy as
Do you ever let any of your music out, or is it just, like, more for you?
So I have some stuff up on SoundCloud, and I send a bunch of shit around to, like, my friends and whatnot.
Nice.
But for the most part, I always end up to a spot where, like, I like what I have, but it's not finished. And it's like, all right, cool. Let me put that in the vault, and at some point, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna finish this shit.
Nice.
So I guys have, like, a whole vault full of just.
That's how music is made.
Yeah.
That's how real music is made.
And at some point, like, you get the influence. The way that I act on almost everything is, I think, I want to do something. I don't attach no timeline to it. I don't have any expectations. But at some point, that thought is gonna come back in my gut as, like, instinct. It's time to do that shit.
When
like,
the time is right.
Now it's time for me to do that. Like, and my roommates will be getting on me sometimes. It's like, man, you say you was gonna do that for, like, 3 months now. I'm like, yeah, I just ain't feel like doing it ever since I said I was going.
Sometimes it takes years. You know?
Yeah. At some point, I'm gonna feel it, and it'll get done at a high level.
Sometimes ideas just gotta marinate with me, because I feel like they evolve over time too. Right. You can have one idea, and just over a course of weeks, it transformed into something totally different, and it's like, oh, this is where I was supposed to be getting to. You know what I mean? So that I don't think you could ever put any pressure. I like that you say you put no time limit on it.
Right.
You just put that idea on there, but you do have to act on it
At some point.
At some point,
Or you're not gonna meet your goal.
Mm-hmm.
So and then like that's on you at the end of the day.
Right.
So like,
And it's also, you got to experience life, you know? Sometimes you might start something and you might have not even experienced enough life, or not enough life, because everybody goes, you know, has their own experiences, but you might not have seen what you had to see yet to even be able to finish it. You know what I'm saying? With like the authenticity that you want, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
With the fucking, you know, with the courage that you want to say it with, anything.
and
it's the same thing with Cole, because on this album there's a bunch of songs that are old, you know,
Yeah.
but it just
There was even the one track he said that he heard the beat like
a year ago.
Like
Yeah.
his homie sent him the beat a year ago. He listened to it. He's like, come back a year later, it makes a 10 song album. So it's like,
Yeah, he might have not had like that conviction yet. You know what I mean? Like to be able to say it how he said it. You know what I'm saying? For us to deliver it like that, for us to like hear it like that.
for sure, right? Because if you have that seed of inspiration and it's like, yo, I know what I want to do, but I just can't do it yet. It's like, all right, cool. Let me back off of it because I feel like a lot of times if it's like I know what I want to do with it and I try to do that and I can't, so I do something else with it, I'm not gonna like what that something else is. Even if it's something I can do right now, I have the ability to do this right now. That was not what the original vision was. So I'd be better off just taking a step back and waiting until I have the skills to capitalize on what the original vision was. Sometimes it's just like, damn, something else popped up. Now I got to deal with this, and then like 10 other things pop up, and then one day it'll come back to your mind like, oh shit, I got to go back to that. So like I have like a Google Drive with like all these old beats. I started learning how to make beats 2-3 years ago. So I have like an entire like catalog basically starting from the beginning to the end of like the beats that I actually think would be worth to go back once I have time to sit down with it. Now that I have better skills, go back and try to make a song out of it.
I remember you linking up with LG with something.
Yeah,
Did you send, I remember that.
I sent him a few beats. And everything that I sent him, he snapped on. And those were all like real early things too. Like I remember the first one he rapped on was one of my favorite things, but it was real early before I was even really putting any bass on my tracks.
Gotcha.
So it was just like it was like I flipped a sample pretty cool, put some drums over it, and that was it.
It was raw.
What
It was still
programs
raw.
were you did you start
So
out with?
I learned in Logic.
Okay.
So I had a whole bunch of like Apple products, so I was using Logic. But I've stepped away from Logic, and I got an MPC Live recently. Okay. So I'm using the MPC Live and the MPC software now. I'm trying to like get back to where I was in Logic before that.
Nice. So what would you say, like, as a producer, is like, you know, your sound, or how would you describe yourself? Like what you like, you know,
Right.
or influences that you have.
So I think the combination of things that I've been told the most that I think makes sense on my music is like if you mix Cole with Currency and a little bit of like Isaiah Rashad. Like I feel like that type of sound. It's like a slower, chill hip hop, kind of like high music for the most part. But like I like my stuff darker for the most part. I don't really like too much happy music. So I would
Alchemist
be ripping,
type?
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
I would be ripping on like Chance's music when it's too damn happy.
Dave used to love Chance. I used to get on Dave all the time.
Yo, when the album came out, was it Chance 3?
Yeah, Chance.
Yeah. I love that album.
Chance 3 was alright.
And it was a good. It made me happy. You know what I'm saying? It was good time. He was always making fun of me for playing Chance.
Nah, because I used to like acid rap. I ain't gonna front. Like I
acid
didn't
rap
like
was dope.
I didn't like Chance at one point. And then at some point I just, you know,
That last album.
I didn't need it anymore.
That last album was bad.
I don't even know what it was called then.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but it was bad. That's the homie though. He's a cool dude.
Yeah, nah, he's probably. I always say that to Dave after I get on him for liking Chance. I'm like, Chance is probably a really good guy though.
That's what I was cheering for. I was just happy to see a young rapper, black, with his kids,
Positive,
baby. You know, I was just supporting that. That's it.
100%. Yeah, it's interesting. And so that last album, my understanding is that he produced a lot of those tracks. So that was like one of his first forays into like really producing all his stuff. So maybe that accounts for some of it. Like he wasn't working with the high level producers that he was used to, and like his sound was very one note. But there was a few songs on there that were all right. That song with Gucci Man, I don't know what the I don't know what it was called, but it was tough.
Yeah, nah. Anybody making music, you know, is courageous, and you know what I mean. I applaud them because it's not easy. You know what I'm saying? You got to be brave to just let yourself
100%.
be heard.
It's scary to put that shit out.
Yeah, for real, for real.
100%.
Because you putting something out immediately, it's just gonna be critiqued, no matter for the good or for the worse. So you just have to know that, and you just have to like fuck it, just do your thing.
Right, either you're gonna like it or you're not.
Yeah.
It ain't gonna bother me. Yeah, and I think that's like if you realize what your audience is, right? Then like you don't really have to worry about that.
Exactly.
Like I'm not making music for these fans over here. Like I'm making music for my fans. That's why I think Currency is my all-time favorite.
Yeah, I love Currency
because he has his lane. He's capitalized
on
it.
And
he stayed dropping too.
Yo.
Right,
He always dropping
He
something.
drops something every month. If it's been more than 2 months, something's wrong. He's sick.
I was just listening. What was the last one he dropped? He's like sitting in the car on the cover. He has like above the law. He has a couple joints on there. I like him.
Remember what the last one was, bro?
Yeah, there's so many. There's so many.
Every month. Him and the other dude that I've been listening to a lot that's kind of in that same vein is Larry June.
Larry June,
Larry
he's
June.
that guy, yo.
He's the same way where it's like he just has that lane where it's like, cool, I'm gonna drop this. You're gonna know what it's gonna sound like already, and you're still gonna like it.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, I got that.
Yeah, he had that project with Harry Fraud, right?
Yeah.
And then
Fire.
Currency had put
Currency,
out,
the
had two.
currency
Yeah.
joint on there is the best. Like that sample, whew.
Oh yeah. The last thing they put out was Welcome to Jet Life Recordings, but they also put Covert Coop up on on streaming services. That was him and Alchemist back in like the early 2010s.
Yeah, Alchemist is like, yo, quietly, just he has so many classics.
Collection
He's doing it since
Agency.
the 90s.
Crazy.
Collection Agency. That was the one that he
Oh,
dropped
word.
earlier this year. It was pretty tough. He had some nice joints on here.
Let me see. Smiled on Me is my shit.
Yeah, Smiled on Me, yeah.
Smiled on Me.
Yeah, that was dope.
And then the song with Larry June stuff.
Yo, so we sidetracked into a whole great conversation, but I want to get back to Mama.
Yeah, we were talking about Mama.
Did you ever change like your majors or anything like that?
So I never changed my major, but when I was first going to school, I really had no idea what the hell I wanted to do. I mean, by the time I was leaving school, I still had no idea
Pretty much
what I wanted to
undecided.
do.
Yeah.
But I thought that my favorite subject had always been like history type stuff, but I didn't think that was gonna get me a job.
Mm-hmm.
So like I thought about what's the next more practical thing that I like. And I liked biology, so I thought about going into like some type of medical field.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to do the chemistry classes and all that.
Yeah.
So I wasn't gonna be a doctor.
Gotcha.
So at first I was gonna go into medical technology, and that just kind of ended up being. I didn't end up even going that route, but it just was going to be too much. So I was like, I'm not doing that on top of playing football. So there was like this general health studies major, which is biology related and like health related. You take like anatomy classes and stuff like that. But it was super, super easy. Like the only hard class I took over the course of 4 years for that major was the anatomy classes. Everything else was like,
Just
Yeah.
drink more water to be healthy.
Student
Like,
athlete, like he was chilling. Yeah.
right. Like there wasn't that much going on, and like I have a bunch of athletes were taking that major. Like between that and communications, I feel like those were like the two ones that the athletes were kind of going into.
Gotcha.
And most of my friends that got that major all kind of walk out of it like, you need to go to school and do something else after you get this major, because like it prepares you for some things. Like you can go to like PT school potentially and things like that. But other than that, you're not necessarily really likely to get a job at 22 years old, right when you graduate with that major. So that was my major. I was doing real good. Just like my GPA was super high because the classes weren't too difficult.
And you are a brainiac too, bro.
I'm also smart.
You're also smart.
I'm also smart, but look. So to be honest, like I thought college was gonna be more difficult than it was. Like on the academic side, I didn't think college was very difficult at all. The difficult part is dealing with all the distractions.
Yeah,
like you can,
100%.
I could be doing anything. Could be doing anything else in the world right now except for this homework. So like I honestly think that being an athlete made me do better in school because it kept me away from some of the distractions that would have been worse for me.
Yeah.
It still brought that discipline to your life.
Yeah, you have to have like without that forced discipline at the age of 18 to 22, I would have been doing some nut shit probably.
Yeah.
Like
It brings a structured schedule. It brings
Right. And there's so many other people doing it that it keeps you accountable just kind of by force. It's just like unless you want to be ostracized from the only group that you know, you got to do the same stuff that they're doing. But there's definitely a benefit to it. Like in terms of having all those, and I think football is probably the best example because you're around so many people.
Yeah.
Like there's 100 people plus in a football locker room, whereas every other sport there's 15, 20, 30 people.
It's a lot of personalities.
A lot. And you have to learn how to deal with all those people and the coaches on top of that. So it's like there's so much going on that's outside of your control for the most part that you just have to like.
You got to delegate a lot.
Right. It's just like I got to do my part.
You just gotta be part of the team.
Right. I just got to do my part, keep my head down, and keep going. And then like as we kept going, it kept getting a little bit older. It was more like, okay, cool. Now I can kind of put my thumb on the scale a little bit more and actually influence what's going on. And wrapping back to the academics, the thing that I realized when I was in my major was that there weren't going to be too many options. And being an athlete, I don't think that they stress enough to you that you need to get some type of professional experience while you're in college. Because for the most part, people are athletes, and half the kids are thinking about how they're going to try to make it into the league when they're done. And you finish your season as a senior, that's it. Yeah. That's it. There really isn't too much left for you in terms of what your interaction with the team or with the program.
They haven't built any actual skills for life in that period of time.
You didn't get any internships. You don't have any professional connections. You have no idea what you're going to do as soon as you graduate.
You was just balling.
Right. You was just playing whatever sport you was brought there to play, and that's what a lot of people's mindset is when they get to college. Because the goal most of the time was I just wanted to go to college and play football. I just wanted to go to college and do this. I can do all this other stuff on the side because that will allow me to play football, but not too many people are thinking about it in terms of what is the next step once they punt me out of this door. Like
they really not taking the advantage.
Right.
Just getting the education, and if what they're gonna do in life requires it.
Right. And I mean a lot of it comes down to what type of structure the school has in place, right? Like I think even now Monmouth University does a much better job than what they were doing back in the day in terms of making sure that the students understand in 4 years, and 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, you're not here no more.
You're in the real world.
Helping you. We're not helping you no more. So you need to like step up and start moving. So I kind of got lucky where I was working with somebody at the school, and they set me up with an internship that was doing like healthcare management at a continuing care retirement community. And I hated it. It was awful. And I remember talking to my boss, and I was like, he was complaining about this big old book of rules and regulations that he had to follow. And he was complaining about like he couldn't do what he wanted to do because all the crap that was in the book. And I was like, well, what do you have to do to change the rules? And he was like, go to law school and become a lawyer. And I was like, all right. So I went home, started looking into that as an idea, and that was like the end of my junior year of college. And like I knew I didn't want to do what my internship had been. So I started looking into being a lawyer and realized, okay, it doesn't matter what major I have, as long as my GPA is good and I do well on the LSAT, which is basically just like the law school exam. SAT just a little bit harder.
Gotcha.
So I did some research into that, and then like it's something that I had been interested in when I was younger. Just never like didn't know no lawyers, weren't no lawyers in my family, so there wasn't anybody to like ask those questions to figure out what that path looks like. So really, once I figured it out, did a bunch of research, I was like, this is what I want to do. I told my parents, I was like, I don't have any like loans or anything for school because I had a scholarship for football. So I was like, I'm okay taking out money to go to law school because this will actually help me get a job, whereas I have no idea what I would do right now. And that was really one of the things. Like they say that you shouldn't go to law school unless you know what you want to do.
Yeah, because there's like certain practices that you can.
Like the law is huge. Like it covers everything. So they say that you shouldn't do that because one, it's a lot of money to go to law school. Two, it's not easy to get a job. It's still a very competitive market. It just makes you more competitive in that market.
And it's not easy to finish too, to get that degree.
So are you a part of a firm now?
So I'm not working for. So generally speaking, when somebody says a firm, they're talking about like a private corporation. I work for a nonprofit organization called the ACLU of New Jersey. It stands for the American Civil Liberties Union, and it's a national organization, but I work for the state. So what I'm doing now is I got a 1-year contract with them once I finished school. So I was a legal fellow working in their legal department, just kind of like following around a bunch of the attorneys, figuring out what they do and helping them out whenever they need it. When that contract ran up, I realized that the part of the work that I liked more was the policy side of things. So we have a policy department and a legal department. The legal department focuses on going to court, dealing with the judges, and writing all of the briefs and stuff that you need to submit to the court. The policy side of things more so focuses on the people that are writing the bills that actually control the laws of the state. So all the elected officials in the state of New Jersey, they focus on the bills and the legislation. So I read all the bills that they're trying to introduce, flag all the bad ones that we should not allow to pass into law, flag the good ones that we want to try to push them to pass, and then I just kind of work towards that. And like that was a big part of what I was doing on the cannabis front, was like meeting with elected lawmakers and trying to convince them that we need to legalize cannabis. And like those conversations were crazy because you realize like the people that are running things are not connected with the everyday life.
Yeah. And especially with the times probably,
like,
and our generation and kind of the vibe of what,
it's still mostly old white people that are in charge.
So how was it like? What did you have to do to kind of break that barrier? Kind of just have a middle ground.
Right. So like, it was interesting because it unfolded as the pandemic was happening. So everything shifted from being like in-person meetings to on Zoom. So I've just been spending all day on Zoom calls pretty much every day. But we go in and we meet with lawmakers, and we try to kind of just take our cues from them. We see what is it they're talking about. If they're anti-weed, you'll know in the first 30 seconds. You'll know. Like they're very obvious about it, and they tend to use that they grew up in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and they're using like reefer madness language and like reefer cigarettes and like marijuana cigarettes. I'm like, come on, like
I don't even know.
Somebody like I had a guy call it dope. And I'm like what? Do you have any idea what is going on in your neighborhoods? Like, where are you at still? And like, it's real difficult, especially because as a I'm half black, half white. I identify as a black man. As a black man in that space, any person of color in that space, you get talked down on so much. It's just like they'll bring you into a meeting where you're supposed to be giving them the expertise, and they're just yelling at you about what their complaints are. It's like there's one guy sitting here saying like, my understanding is that so we decriminalized 6 ounces of cannabis, which is a lot. Yeah. It's a decent amount of weed.
Yeah.
But the idea originally, what they were going to do is they were going to legalize 1 ounce and decriminalize 2 ounces. My mind, I was like, it's very easy to have 2 ounces plus. Like that's not a ton. We need to have a bigger buffer to allow people to have some actual marijuana without getting arrested for it. Otherwise, we're not really legalizing it.
Word.
And there was this one guy who was saying, like, my understanding is that 6 ounces is 500 marijuana cigarettes. Like,
oh my God,
it's like, I don't even know how to respond to that.
Yeah,
like,
it just kind of sound bad. Yeah.
I don't even know. Maybe you could give, I don't know, like he was like, who would need 500 marijuana cigarettes? Who would need 500?
So you had to keep your composure a lot and just had to kind of ease them into it.
Right. So it becomes difficult. And a lot of what we do is we try to go in with multiple people. So I have a coworker who will do this often with, and it's like, we'll have a plan of, okay, I'll talk about this, you talk about this. And then sometimes you just have to really throw out the plan and start all over again because like, if you let me keep talking, I'm about to just curse this dude out. So I'm just going to have to go on mute and turn my video off, and you going to have to handle the rest of the meeting.
Sure,
so, like, there's moments like that where it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's almost a validating experience because it's like, this person's in charge, and I know I'm way smarter than you are. So it's like that it's a little bit of a validation in that sense.
So does that bring any aspirations to try to, just get higher in the rankings where you could have just more of an impact on what's getting passed?
Like, I honestly think that one of the things that really made me interested in the law is I've always kind of had a little bit of a disdain for authority figures.
Okay.
Like, unless I've earned my respect truly, like, oh, this person's a good leader, I'm gonna follow them. I don't blindly follow them. So like
Keep a healthy distance.
Most of my teachers, like all my teachers, have either really liked me or really hated me. Like I feel like there's never been like an in between. And the same thing with my coaches, because if you're in charge and you've proven to me that I shouldn't respect or follow you, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just not going to do it. So like being in this space now, it's like, okay, cool. This is the perfect opportunity for me to put my head down, learn as much as I need to learn, get the experiences that I need to learn. And then when I pick my head back up and show myself, I have the experience.
You're well equipped.
Right. And people, when I'm talking, it's like, okay, this guy understands what he's talking about. He's not just talking out of his ass. And sometimes I'm talking out of my ass. So that's how I know I'm not ready yet. But eventually in a few years, when I have all those experiences, I would really like to run for some type of elected office here locally in Jersey, just to have some type of say in things. Because seeing the people that do have a say in things, we need more balance than what we currently have.
That's definitely a noble pursuit, man. You know what I mean?
Appreciate it.
And I fucking well wishes on your journey.
For sure. I'll definitely be at the campaigns being rowdy, bro. It's gonna be turned, man.
You gonna start putting some signs on some picket fences on some people's lawns?
For sure.
Yeah, like I would really like to go back down to the Monmouth County area and try to run down there. Like it's still a relatively white area, but it's becoming a lot more diverse. So 5-10 years, it might be the type of spot that like I could technically win an election in.
For sure.
Yeah. Just past those thresholds that just haven't been surpassed yet.
Right. Exactly. So somebody
bring a
has
real
to do
change.
It. Right. Somebody has to do it.
So what's some like improvements for NJ that you specifically like see that we need?
So one of the there's a few things that like you need to have everywhere in terms of like police reform and stuff like that. But just Jersey specific, we have 566 municipalities.
Mm-hmm. Damn.
New Jersey's super small. Like I think that's more municipalities than California has. Wow. Like so in New Jersey there was just an issue at some point like back in the late 1800s where all of these different communities wanted to become their own local government. Mm-hmm. And the state gave them the power to do it, and every like square mile just created their own shit. And
gotcha.
we're still dealing with like the impacts of that. It's like there's local government costs a ton of money. Mm-hmm. So if we were to combine a lot of these communities into slightly bigger municipalities, then we would save a ton of money because every 3 blocks wouldn't need to have their own garbage removal and elementary school and this and that. We could actually have some efficiency.
The ratio would just generate a lot more.
Right. And that same exact thing, it kind of leads to why we have so much so much segregation and in the communities.
It's easier to redline when there's so many different.
Yeah. Right. It's just like, okay, cool. Things are going, there's way too many black people now in this 1 square mile. I'm going to the next 1 square mile. And that just perpetually happened time and time and time again. And local communities have a decent amount of power. So it's like they get to decide how they're handling things. And it's like when we're giving all of this different power to all of these different people, you get different results everywhere. Mm-hmm. And that's why you can find that the numbers in Ocean County for black kids getting arrested for cannabis are so much higher than they are elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And Ocean County, not the worst. There was a county that's like 13-1. And I don't even remember which one it was.
Wow, that's
one
crazy.
of those white counties in west New Jersey.
Damn.
But like that's the type of stuff that we really need to take a look at. And it's like those aren't small fixes, right? Like there's too many municipalities. How do we even start to attack that? But those are the type of things that will actually impact some type of change. And there's this other thing that happens in New Jersey where the local Democratic and Republican parties have a ton of power regarding like where on the ballot somebody's name shows up. So what they do is like the people that are in the inner circles end up on like the first line, and everybody, the average voter just looks at the first line and votes all the way down. They see Phil Murphy's name at the top, and then they're gonna vote all the way down or all the way across. I guess it depends on which way the ballot goes. And it's kind of a New Jersey specific thing. And if we took that power away from those local officials and made things a little bit more fair, it would be easier for younger people and for people that weren't as connected with the political organizations to actually be elected. So that's another thing, but that's kind of technical. But for what it's worth, like New Jersey's not the worst. We do a decent amount of good stuff. Like there's a ton of progressive policy that gets passed in New Jersey that couldn't get passed elsewhere, and we do a lot of good work. It's just there's a lot of things in New Jersey that aren't as far as we would think they would be, because we think of New Jersey as a real diverse and real progressive place. Like we're still getting kicked around on police reform. Like we can't really get anything. Like just until recently, it wasn't even necessary for them to have body-worn cameras on. Like that bill just passed recently. And it's like other states have been doing that for years. That's not a new thing. Yeah, so there's a lot of work to do, but Jersey is a good spot because of the fact that there's so many people.
Yeah.
Like people are always going to be engaged in New Jersey. Like you're not going to just be able to just slide things by without people noticing. People are engaged.
For sure.
Yeah.
Would you ever? So you think you're Jersey for the rest of your life, or would you ever go and do the same work in another state?
I would go somewhere else, and I would go somewhere else.
Would you go overseas? Would you go abroad?
I don't think I would go abroad just because there's so much work to do here.
Yeah.
Like so
You ain't trying to go. You got to fix home first.
Right. So look, I tell you what. One of the things that really used to bother me in law school, and this doesn't apply to everybody because there's plenty of people that want to do good work everywhere, and we need to do good work everywhere. But what I would find a lot is that there were a ton of white women that wanted to do human rights work overseas. There was no white women that wanted to do local civil rights work. So like there was like this barrier where it's just like, it's noble that you want to do the work that you want to do, but I'm questioning it because nobody wants to do that same work here. Like, what is the disconnect that makes you not want to do it here as opposed to wanting to do it elsewhere? And like, there's some people who have connections to those places that they want to work, and that makes some sense to me. Yeah. Other folks are just like,
it's either sweet at home. They think, oh, it's all good. Let me go help.
Right,
somebody.
right. Like you're totally unaware of what's happening at home.
And it's easier to start a vlog doing work like that overseas than it would to do it right here in Long Branch, New Jersey.
Right. It's a great way to start your career. You know, you're on vacation somewhere for a few years. And I'm not trying to like talk down on all the people that
but it's just something that you observe.
That's a pattern that I observed, and it would bother me a little bit because it's like, I'm in the civil rights classes, and it's only people of color. But if I look across the hall in the human rights class that's for international work, it's all white people. Like it doesn't necessarily even make sense. And we have tons of international folks that were coming in too. So it's like they aren't even necessarily trying to do the work as much as these white people that have never really left America are trying to do.
And it also may have something to do with like the guilt. Maybe they don't want to do the work here where they kind of feel tied to, you know, but they'll do the work somewhere else where they feel like they're just giving themselves to, you know. So it's a little bit of psychology to it too.
Yeah, it's a fine line. It's a fine line, but I feel you though. It's definitely there.
Yeah. It's just something that I noticed, and it was like it used to eat at me a little bit. I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna pick on nobody for it, but definitely noticed it.
What's something that you noticed, the biggest thing that you noticed during the pandemic? Like, what was an epiphany that you got where you were just like, damn?
So I don't even know if it was an epiphany, but
yeah, it doesn't have to be an epiphany, but just anything. Yeah.
Just the way that I naturally am, I think was very well suited for a pandemic. I'm a homebody at heart. I'm not trying to go out nowhere. I'm not really trying to do this. I'm not trying to socialize too much. So the pandemic, in that sense, didn't throw me for a loop too much because I was kind of like, okay, cool, I can just lock in and do what I want to do. But at the same time, what I realized was that that's real difficult. Like, I was in the house all day, every day, in the same spot where all of my hobbies are. I got my whole little studio set up downstairs. And wasn't making no music because I was just depressed from sitting in the house all day. So I think that I realized that, okay, I can't just be totally self-sufficient, locking myself in the basement and just working on what I want to work on. It doesn't work like that. And I found that I haven't been able to make as much music over this last year. And I think it's because I haven't been doing nothing.
You need vibes. You need experience. I don't got
nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just trying to talk about things that I used to talk about, that I remember talking about. So that's probably the epiphany. Like, as much of a homebody as I am, I can't just lock myself in for that long. And still
Like
be
you
able
went
to-
into it like, oh shit, we good.
Yeah, we're good.
This is my element.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm
and
like,
then
this is great. This is great.
and still even after some time, like you needed like time out of that environment. Yeah.
And then you remember it's not great. It's not a great time for other people too. While you like just chilling. So for work though, did it make things a lot easier being able to just handle things at home, or was it like you felt like you had to be more hands on, like when people had to be together to get things passed and.
So I just think, look, I don't think the work gets easier or harder depending on being at home or in person. I think the thing that became more difficult is that there's much more forced communication now. So before, we're all in the same office, so if I need to talk to somebody, I could just run by their office and we can talk. Now, if I need to talk to somebody, I need to put 30 minutes on your calendar, and we have to set up a Zoom invite, and I have to find some time because I understand that your whole day is probably you sitting in Zoom calls. So I spend so much more time now talking to people and communicating, way more time than I do actually working. So like it's been much more difficult to find time to get the work done because now my work day is just like meetings. So like sometimes I'll be sitting on Zoom and people got to get mad at me because if there's more than like one or two people on the Zoom, I'm going off the camera.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be working on some stuff unless I'm actively like needed in the
So they bring you up. Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not just going to sit here and stare at the computer all day because I got work to do.
It's like virtual court. It's like there's a million people in there. You be on there for like 3-4 hours.
Right. And that's that's one of the things that the pandemic has really changed. Like,
Yeah.
the way that the government has to interact with people.
Yeah.
And like they had a tough time trying to figure out how to interact with people. How can we get people to call in on Zoom? And like one of the biggest issues is that they don't necessarily know how to use the stuff. So like we have like lawmakers all the time that don't know how to mute themselves. So like they're taking calls during the sessions. And
My mom uses Zoom. She don't got no clue. I'll be like, Mom, mute that. Like,
it's like there's only two things you have to be aware of: it's the mute and the video and the camera. Like that's it.
Yeah.
So like it changed a lot in terms of how the government is going to have to interact with folks, and we're hoping that moving forward they'll retain some of the new technological advances that they've kind of picked up on. So like normally what happens when a piece of legislation is trying to get passed through the state is they'll have like a committee hearing. And what that means generally is that there's going to be a small group of lawmakers that are going to talk about the bill, and they're going to allow anybody from the public to sign up and come talk about it. In the past, that meant that you'd have to sign up and drive down to Trenton on Tuesday at noon to go talk about this bill for 3 minutes before they cut you off.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do that. That's not a good use of anybody's time.
or resources, anything.
Anybody. Like there's not a single person that benefits from that system besides the lawmakers because they don't have to listen to too many people because they're not going to come. But during the pandemic, they just made everything virtual. So you sign up, you show up on the Zoom, you're given your 3 minutes to talk. Now we get 40, 50, 60 people showing up to sign up because they don't have to do anything. You just have to get on the phone and talk for 3 minutes. Yeah. Now, there's a downside to that is that the meetings have become 4 or 5 hours long. They become much, much longer when you allow more people to talk.
It's a little more diluted.
But people are actually allowed to talk. Like that's the whole point of the process is you want public comment on it. So if you want public comment, you have to do something that allows for people to actually show up and talk. And we're pushing the state to keep that option moving forward. So yeah, you can have it in person, but you need to allow people to also
make it like a hybrid.
Right. Yeah. Just why can't they just call in on Zoom? Why do they need to be in the State House? It doesn't make any sense. So that's one of the things that I think the pandemic is really going to change for the better. I think the government will hate it. They're going to push back on it and be like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. Yeah. But like, if we want real public engagement and like we want civic engagement in the work, then you have to make it easy for people to get involved.
Yeah, because as of late, it's now more of a thing. I see it often now, like just people going off in these Zoom calls. Snapping, bro. I've seen many of them over the last couple of months.
But I tell you what, I've heard more lawmakers throw fits than people, just like general people from the public. That hasn't happened too much in my experience. Like you get people that are pissed off and will start screaming, but it tends to be lawmakers who are just screaming their heads off. I'm like, why? Like yesterday there was a voting session and there was this. I'm sitting there cleaning my room as I'm listening, And all of a sudden, this guy starts screaming about Governor Murphy and like the top of his lungs, like he's ready to fight. I'm like, why are you screaming in my ear?
Yo.
Like, what is going on here? So that happens a decent amount. Like, honestly, like I think what we need to do is start like clipping the drama from these events, like show the public, like, hey, you could have watched, you could have watched this.
You could have tuned into this instead of Judge Joe Mathis, for real.
Right.
But from the legal side, what do you say to people who still think that the election was rigged? From the legal side, if you don't want to touch on it, we don't have.
Right. No,
Oh, okay.
100%. I mean, look, from the legal, so the law makes things real easy because from the legal side, there's never really much of an argument once the court has made the decision. So once the court decides, we could sit here and argue about it, like maybe there was something wrong here, maybe there was something wrong here, but the court decided, and that's what we've decided our legal system is. So we all have to kind of abide by that. And in this case, there's a lot of arguments when it's like, okay, there was just one case. The Supreme Court had to decide on it, and it was 5-4. That meant 5 people thought this way, 4 people thought that way. Do we really need to live by what the 5 people said as according to the 4? Like, there's a good argument there.
Yeah.
In this case, they brought like 20 different lawsuits all across the country, and all but like one of them were thrown out within like a day. They were crappy lawsuits that could not be sustained. None of the courts or the judges would even touch them. They're like, this is a bad lawsuit. I'm not taking this. This ain't gonna win.
Yeah.
So from the legal standpoint, that's really all there is to it. It's like, okay, the way the law works is you get your day in court, file all your lawsuits. If you're right, we'll find out. And they weren't right, so
It is what it is.
Look, there's plenty. Look, it would be naive to say that elections can't be rigged.
Yeah.
Like elections can and have been rigged across the country throughout history. Like it's 100% a possibility. Folks were screaming that they thought the election was rigged when Trump won it the first time.
Word.
Yeah.
So it's most definitely a possibility, and I don't think it's absurd that people think that it's a possibility. But I think it's a little bit absurd when people run with that as like the entire basis
Of their argument and their position.
Right.
It's like, yeah.
It's like there's rigged, like somebody wrote it into the system that no matter what he was going to win. That didn't happen. Now, if you want to say that it was rigged because all of these states made efforts to make it very easy for people to vote, then sure, go ahead and say that because that's a fact. All the states made it easier for people to vote, and that's what they should be doing.
That's what they should be doing.
That's what they should be doing. And the only arguments against making it easier to vote always come from the right.
The
way.
motive. Yeah.
And it's just like we don't want it to make it easier to vote because the people that aren't voting right now most likely lean Democratic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the math seems to be pretty simple to me when like the argument is just to bolster one side's potential to win. And we got a whole bunch of things that are all messed up about the way that we vote. Like the voting systems, shot out.
Let me ask you something else. So, for people who aren't gonna go to law school and study the law, what would you tell them is the best way for them to inform themselves about the law? You know what I mean? To just move accordingly for whatever reason.
Anything, yeah.
So look, I think the best thing to do is generally know your rights as it relates to police officers, right? Because that's the thing that's going to impact somebody. That's the thing that's most likely to impact somebody's legal rights is running into the police. And there are tons of resources out there. The ACLU of New Jersey provides some resources. I think LS&J provides some resources. The NAACP provides some resources. So folks just looked up like Know Your Rights Police New Jersey.
Okay.
You'll get a decent amount of results in terms of like what the police are and are not allowed to do. And like the main thing to know is
Shout out Cap.
The main thing to know is that even if you know your rights, and like this is one of the most important things to tell people is like even if you know your rights and you know that a police officer is actively violating your rights, if you do anything, you're gonna lose. Like even if you are wrong, even if you are right that the officer is doing something wrong, and that process gets played out, you still might get charged with the assaulting a police officer for pushing him off of you when he was doing something wrong, for eluding arrest when you ran from him, even though he was doing something wrong. So we always kind of tell people that as much as it sucks to even say this, you kind of have to go through the police process. You have to deal with if you're being wrongfully arrested, you have to get wrongfully arrested and go through it. And then after that experience, lawyers will be able to put your case together and will be able to prove that, hey, the police did something wrong here. But if you go about trying to stop it on the front end, it's just going to end up much worse for you.
Gotta play the end game.
Right. And I'm a prideful person too, so like I can't sit here and say that that's how it's going to play out.
Yeah, it's hard to tell somebody to read the room
Right.
when they're being violated, but at the same time, it's like for your own survival, you have to just know the world is the way it is. You know what I mean? We always want to change it, but it's a deep lineage and some of these things that just it's going to take a long time.
You got to live to fight another day to change the world. Right? Like
Exactly.
it's not going to happen if you just trying to act on it right this second.
Yeah, you hope for change, but you do gotta live in the now. You know what I'm saying? You gotta understand the reality of it, everything. But I mean, it's such a tricky thing with just all the civil unrest last year, you know, because I was living in Brooklyn at the time, and it's like I can't even avoid it because I hear it outside, like them, you know, like I can't. Like there's been plenty of times I was in class, and there was a whole march that it was just happening that they were coming down my street, and I just left class. And I'm like, how am I? You know what I mean? So it's, and then like, there's just a lot of politics to it sometimes too, and I'm kind of in the middle. You know, I'm not a person that's like straight up, you know, liberal or, you know, far right, but it's just, I don't know. What I'm really trying to say is like, can you give me some insight on how you was feeling during the civil unrest, and in hindsight, how you digested that whole situation?
And where we are now, like even after all that.
Yeah.
So look, I think it's really difficult to. The main thing is that it becomes real difficult to kind of focus on you. Like you can't really focus on your everyday life and your everyday responsibilities when what you're thinking about is a much more abstract, high level, damn, there's this going on in the world right now. Yeah. And in my situation, it becomes even more overwhelming because that's kind of the work that I do as well. So it's like I need to be aware of what's going on for work. So from 9 to 5, I'm living in that. And outside of 9 to 5, during times when there's actually civil unrest, that's what you're going to be seeing too. So it's kind of like it becomes real difficult doing the work while all that's happening because you have to live in it like 24/7. Like the work that I'm doing is directly related, but at the same time, that's a good thing. I can't complain about that because it means that like, okay, I can wake up in the morning and know that what I'm working on it might actually have some impact.
And you know that just like when you clock out, people's lives keep going. So
Right.
it give you that push.
Right, and you got to keep going too. And like the George Floyd situation, you know, it's an interesting situation, and I've almost found myself during I don't know if y'all watched the trial.
I did not.
So
I
I think that trial, it was long, but I think that trial is a good introduction to the law for people because if you watch the defense attorney's argument, even if we all sat here and agreed with the defense attorney, the police officer would still be guilty. Like he still would have gotten found guilty by the law. Like there was not a single argument. Like he sat up there for days and put together a few like sentences, but nothing was a coherent argument. And even if we followed his argument, the officer still would have been guilty. So like I think it's kind of interesting to watch that case and be like, damn, they really have nothing. There's no way that this police officer doesn't get found guilty of all of this. And in my head, like that's a good thing, right? We don't ever really see police officers actually held accountable. But on the other side of that coin, I'm like, this is such an open and shut case that it's almost like it doesn't really mean anything.
There's a whole video
Right.
Of it, so there was no wiggle room. You know what I mean?
It
So
would almost mean more if he got off.
yeah,
Like that's
would've-
that's how I was thinking about. Like I watched the entire thing and like I'm like I can't wait for him to get charged. Can't wait for him to get charged. Can't wait for him to get charged. And then I'm waiting for it to come down and I'm like outside of the base level of support that the family needs. Like the family deserves to get that charge on the officer.
Sure.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I'm sitting there like I don't even necessarily see what the value of all of this is because there's no like this is an open and shut case. This dude kneed on his neck for 8 minutes. Like all we had to do was
trials being stretched out for no reason.
all we had to do is show the video. That's it.
That was it.
That's it. There's no room for conversation. So every single thing that the defense attorney says, and this is another thing that kind of bothers me about the law, is like if you're defending somebody who's wrong, you're lying. Like you're not lying, but you're being disingenuous. Like you're not really being true about what you're saying. Like you can sit here and say that, oh, maybe he died because his head was near the muffler and some carbon dioxide. Like, sure, say that out loud, and then go see if you don't get go see if anybody in the world doesn't just laugh you out of their face. But in the law, you have to do that. Like you have to defend both sides of the argument, even if one side doesn't make any damn sense.
I always wondered if the movie by Jim Carrey, Liar Liar, has ever changed any lawyers' hearts.
So I've never seen Liar.
I've never seen that. I ain't gonna.
I'm glad I'm not the only one at the table. Now we can look at you like you crazy.
Yeah, I'm crazy.
It's
I
a
love
gem.
all
It's a
Jim
gem.
Carrey.
I'm a peep. I'm sure it's
I'll
a
check
gem.
it out.
It's more of a family movie, but he was just a liar, and
Yeah.
he had his
Was he a lawyer?
kid. What's up?
Was he a lawyer?
He was a lawyer. He was so it fucked him up when he went to work because his kid wished that he couldn't lie anymore for his birthday wish, and it came true. And he was at work tweaking. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that's actually a good premise.
And it's Jim Carrey, so you know Jim Carrey went crazy with it. Yeah.
So yo, Joe, being a former athlete, would you ever practice another form of law, and like maybe defend, be like a sports lawyer?
Yeah, so that was one of the things that I was thinking about. Like, it was really either civil rights or sport in the sports area. And what I found, and that is something I would definitely be interested in. I think it would, like, I don't think it's something that like I would say, all right, cool, I'm about to just stop what I'm doing and I'm focused on that. But like, if I ran into somebody that was like, yo, I think you could help me out in this space, I would definitely do it. And I think that there's like a decent amount of overlap right now in getting celebrities involved in social justice work. Yeah, that's kind of like the big new thing. Yeah. And I've kind of been saying this for years that like if we could just get celebrities to fund the work.
It's like when they get like Leonardo DiCaprio for like all the environmental
shit. That's his thing. So it's just, but they got to take that upon themselves, you know.
Yeah, I mean Jay-Z and Beyonce have been doing a decent amount.
Quietly,
over the last few years, and they haven't been very loud about it either.
Word.
But that's what it's gonna take. Like there needs to just be systems set up that allows the folks from our community to invest their money in the proper way in our communities. Because like currently the way that money works, right, is you make a little bit of money and then you put it into the money system that makes you more money. What we need is, yes, you can do that, but because we are minority communities, we need to actually set up our own systems to allow for the money to go back into the community and flow back up. And like that doesn't happen right now because we kind of just like, we still have that mentality. It's like, okay, cool, somebody can get out and they're out. Like that's what it means. I'm like, I was able to get out of my rough childhood. But were you able to get other people
anybody
out?
Did you bring anybody with you? Yeah.
And then it all comes full circle because just like how you guys felt like you guys grew up down south and it's like, damn, at the time it felt like, where are we chilling? But like you grow up looking back like, damn, fucking it was racist as hell. But I'm sure your parents probably came from a different neighborhood where they was like, oh, fuck that shit ain't nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like the reason we ended up in Manchester is because my dad grew up in Asbury Park and his whole thing was like, y'all aren't growing up here.
Yeah. Because Asbury, you know what I'm saying? It's a little sweet now, but you know what I'm saying? Asbury the hood, though. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, like, so Asbury is a real interesting situation because I'm not certain that there are many places like Asbury in the country because Asbury is prime real estate that the white people said, fine, black people, you can have it. Because there was race riots back in the day. They burnt everything down, and the white people were just like, fine, you can have it. And then 50 years later, they realized, maybe we should have fought for this a little bit more because this is prime real estate. Yeah. It's the only place on the shore like that where there's that big of a black community. Everything else in that area on the shore is white. So, of course, after 50 years of realizing, like, damn, we gave that up a little bit too easily when we shouldn't have, the gentrification has, like, sped up rapidly in Asbury Park. And, I mean, like, gentrification always has its goods and its bads because we're talking about putting more money into the community. But the issue becomes when like we talk about community as just the land. right? We're not talking about community as the people. Like there's an entire community of people that have lived in Asbury Park for the last 50, 100 years that now are just going to get some money thrown at them to move out. When it would be much better for us to kind of slowly put more money into the community to allow them to get something out of that space.
Definitely.
Now it's just going to be people coming down from New York and people coming from here and there that can kind of really capitalize on Asbury Park. And there's not that much land left, like because it's such a small area. So like once things get built up, you're not really going to be able to get in there.
And I already see a lot of stuff getting built out there. Just when I went to the beach a couple days ago, went to Long Branch, but drove through there a little. It was like a lot of stuff being built. It was looking real nice. I was like, wow, they've been at work during the pandemic. These guys,
they got a lot going on. I mean, I think it kind of comes down. One of the things that's most frustrating is that you see most of that happening just kind of on the beachfront, on the east side of the tracks, and that's not necessarily the most residential part of Asbury Park. It's like, can we focus on the west side of the tracks? Can we focus on some of these other areas that need some type of influx in their economy, as opposed to just trying to build up the best beachfront that they can?
Because we literally, when we went to Long Branch, we parked one block down, and the block was crazy. And once you make a right, it was like beautiful, brand new. And it was just like, damn, they really don't relocate any of these funds or anything.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's the same exact thing. It's the same thing in Long Branch. It's like they put all that money in like Pier Village.
Yeah,
and then you go back into downtown and go a little further out, and it's just like, okay,
it's a short town.
Is this the same town still? Like, it's like no, there's the beach part of the town, and then there's the rest of the town. I like the Long Branch area too. I think at some point I do want to either move back to like Long Branch or Asbury.
It's mad nice.
It's nice now.
It's nice.
I mean, if I can afford it at this
point.
Yeah, that's just shooting up, man.
Right.
Man, but we got well over an hour, man. Joe, you're the man. Appreciate you coming
Joe,
through.
I appreciate it, man.
Bringing
We haven't
some
had
wisdom.
an episode in a while since the new year, and you were the best guest that we could probably introduce, and to rebrand and let people know what we're about. So I appreciate you coming through and just,
Of course.
doing what you do.
Show, man. We need to hear some music soon. You gotta release something,
It's
bro.
coming soon. Look, so when I first started making music, I always had the main goal has always been to just drop something.
Mm-hmm.
Something has to come from all of the work. So it's just like, I know that there's some songs that I already have that I need to retool a little bit that will end up on what I eventually drop. But I've always had a connection to the number 28. I wore 28 in college. I wore 2 at some point. I wore 8 at some point. And I've always kind of said that, like, no matter what, I'm dropping something by the time I turn 28. I turned 28 in November. So
Okay.
I gotta lock in.
All right. You
Is
got
that-
the
is
summer,
that,
bro.
Is that the name
I
of the
got the
tape?
summer.
Is the name of the tape 28?
So originally I had it's funny because I've had like playlists that have evolved to different like tape ideas and things like that. And the first tape idea that I had was called 28 G's.
Okay.
And like the playlist ended up like 50 songs. And
Yeah.
beats that I liked, and then I wrote to some of them, and then like another idea popped up, and another idea popped up. So I'm probably so far removed from that original idea that that won't be the name of it, but
The influence is there. The influence is there.
Something is coming.
When you write, do you actually physically write or do you type?
So originally when I first started writing, I like to write on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it was because I used to do a lot of writing when I was in class. So like I would have like my notebook down and look like I'm doing something. Like, look like I'm taking notes or something, but I'm actually writing. But as I went further and further along, I really switched over to just using my notes on my phone because I'm on my phone so often. I can pull up the beat on my phone, type the notes at the same time. Realistically, what I like to do the most is not write it until I have it all down. So like just kind of write it in my head and keep like performing it in my head until I finally have it. And then once it's like, okay, cool, I have it fully down. If I can't record it right away, I'll type it into my notes that way I don't forget it. Because that pissed me off. That's the worst.
That's
the
the
whole
worst.
day writing a verse in my head, not write it down, and then like weeks later the beat will come on. I'm like, I wrote to this, right? I wrote a verse to this, right? It's like I remember like one line. I'm like, damn, bro, I don't remember what this song was. But for real, I'm definitely going to do something this summer. I just got to like actually focus on it.
Just lock in.
Right. That's what it comes down to.
All right, bet, man. We gonna be looking forward to it, man. And where you at? You in Newark, right?
I'm in Newark. Yeah, I'm in Newark.
In
I'm going to
Newark.
be there for at least the next 2 years. and then I'll probably be there a little bit longer. I got some other things going on I got to stick around for, but at some point I'm trying to make it back down to Central Jersey.
I hear you. All right, man. Well, it's been amazing chatting with you, bro. I hope we do this again, man.
Of course, bro.
Hope we do this again.
Anytime. I'm always happy to come through.
Yo, my man. Thank you, man. I appreciate everything.
Of course.
Fucking appreciate everybody listening to us. I know it's been a while, and it's Wise, man. We out.
You're